Good morning, friends. Let's begin with a prayer. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, our beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. Reinvigorate our energy and willingness, that we may come to thee again and again, hearts overflowing with joy, seeking thee constantly, searching for thee in every moment, loving thee with all our hearts. Divine Mother, help us to end this game of hide and seek, that we may know thee and share thee with all. Om, peace. Amen. Good morning, friends. Today, I wanted to talk about reinvigorating our meditations. Here we are in about the 7th or 8th month of this global pandemic, and there's a feeling of stagnation that's just been permeating, kind of emanating throughout, that's been permeating our reality, our culture, our consciousness. Everyone is just, we're kind of in this place of stuckness. That's not quite a word, but stuckness, just being caught up in what Yogananda called the anguishing monotony. Here we are day after day. Our options are limited. Our opportunities are limited. The things that we need to do, our tasks and our obligations, they haven't lessened, but the way that we go about doing them, they've been confined and constricted. And as a result of that, we sometimes can feel just a little bit limited and stuck in our own attitudes and our own relationship with our spiritual practices and with particularly our meditation practices. And I was thinking about this because I was just reading an article about tidying up, and there's a woman, Marie Kondo, many of you have probably heard of her, and she's become very famous for helping people to tidy up their homes, to cleanse and release clutter and unnecessary items. And so again, it's really in certain ways that the yamas and niyamas echo this idea of cleanliness, to have a clean heart and to have a clean and open mind. That also starts with our environment and our space. And so the work that she's doing that has become so popular is, there's an element of spirituality in it, and there's a dharma in it as well. And I was reading an article about her because so many people are in their homes all of the time now and working from home and spending so much energy and effort in just fixing up their homes and trying to make them places that are nice and that are beautiful and that work for their family. And so Marie Kondo she's been popping up on threads and streams and podcasts and different things that I listen to. And one of her sayings that she uses is spark joy. And it's really this concept of, looking at whatever element or object or item it is that's in your house and saying, does this spark joy? Is there something here that makes me happy? And if so, hold on to it, feel into that. And if not, let it go. This is part of her practice in tidying up our physical spaces. And I stopped and thought about how we can translate that same concept of sparking joy in our meditations. What are the things that we can do to reinvigorate our meditations, to come back again and again to those places of feeling and knowing that we are one with the divine, and that there is nothing but excitement and adventure and love and joy in the midst of our meditations when we are connecting with God in that way. And we have that opportunity in every single moment. Sometimes we just need to come back and refocus and reinvigorate our meditations, which is what we'll take a look at doing today. And so I thought about 5 different axioms that Yogananda and Swami Kriyananda have both used many times in their teachings, and they're staples that we, all of us that are on this path and that are disciples of Yogananda, have heard many times. And if you're not a disciple of Yogananda, the axioms are still true, that the truth that exists in the words and in the expression are still true. And I wanted to just go through 5 of them and talk about the ways that we can use them to help invigorate our meditations in the midst of this urban environment that we're all living in, where the buzz and the chaos and the craziness, it hasn't stopped, but our lives have shifted, and we've had to draw in and limit our opportunities. We've had to limit the opportunity to have group meditations. We've had to limit the opportunity to come together and meditate with friends. So how do we enliven that practice and keep it moving forward, keep ourselves progressing in ways that are going to help us stay connected to the divine? The first axiom is, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. In the Raja Yoga book, Swami Kriyananda, this is one of my favorite lines from the Raja Yoga book. Swami Kriyananda says, after repeating this line, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy, he says, memorize this. Emblazon it in your mind. This single fact, this single statement will revolutionize your life. And it's so true. Whenever we are feeling drained of energy in any way, whenever we're feeling drained of enthusiasm, if we come in and we reinvigorate our willingness, if we take that step to charge forward and really bring our energy and our willingness to any activity that we're doing, then automatically the energy flows behind it. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. And we always know that no matter what we're doing in our daily lives, no matter how far we get pulled out into the world, there is the underlying truth for every single one of us that our ultimate goal is God. Whatever little goals we pick up along the way, to care for our family, to have a successful job in order to support our family and our lifestyle, to lose 10 pounds, to meet the perfect partner, whatever those outward goals may be that exist there, because karmically they've been drawn to us. Underneath all of that exists the one ultimate goal that we all share in common, which is to know God, which is to feel God in our hearts. And when we bring our willingness and our concentration to that goal, then automatically the energy is there. Yogananda tells us that the one thing God doesn't have is our love. God has everything. God is everything. The one thing that God is waiting for from each one of us is our love, is our devotion from our hearts. And the way that we can practice this in our meditations is to really bring our willingness to it, to not get stuck in the habit patterns of I wake up, I go, I sit, I meditate, I do my time on my pillow so that I can get up and then move on and go about my day. Maybe I remember meditation a little bit throughout the day. Maybe I remember to stay calm throughout the day, and I come back at night and I sit again and I go to bed. But to really bring that effort and that energy into each moment. Yogananda tells us, what else would we want to be doing but meditate? One of my favorite quotes from him is, I'm not going to get it right, perfectly right, so I'll just paraphrase it. But he says, read a little, stay away from televisions, read a little, but meditate all the time. And so this idea of no matter what we're doing in our lives, the most important activity that we can come back to again and again each day is our meditations. And we can practice playing with this willingness, playing with that ability to just see the connection between our willingness and the energy that flows in little ways and big ways. One of the ways that I do this, I was just sharing this with a friend the other day. I have this path, this loop that I run when I want to go out and get some exercise. So when I'm on the run, I know when I turn, make kind of this last turn, I'm on the last quarter mile or so, just over a quarter mile of my run, and then I'll be home. And I used to feel tired at that point. I used to feel like, you're almost home. I'm not somebody who's like loved running. I enjoy working out. I enjoy all of those aspects of it, but I was never the let's go for a run kind of person. And so it was always a strain for me. It still is, though there's joy underneath it. I can feel the tapasya and the effort in the activity that I'm doing. And so I used to get to this turn across a bridge, and then I knew I had about a quarter of a mile left, and I could feel my energy start to drain, like, oh, you're almost home, you've done it, just keep going a little bit longer. And I decided a few weeks ago to shift that energy, and instead of allowing myself to feel the drain of like, oh, thank gosh, we're almost done, to really shift that and to say, I'm going to give all of my willingness to this last quarter of a mile. I'm going to give everything that I have into this run. And I don't time myself, so it's not like a competition where I say, yesterday I did it in this many seconds and today I'll do it in this many seconds. It's just, what do I have to bring today? What can I show up with today? And let me lay all of it on the table here. And I found that that's become the most enjoyable part of my run every day. And so that's a practice that we can use. If we're feeling a little drained, like, oh, here we go, I have to get up, oh, the alarm's gone off, let me just sit for 5 more minutes here. We can change that voice by really bringing our effort and our willingness into it. And this is an example, Nayaswami Devi, who is, along with Nayaswami Jyotish, the spiritual directors of Ananda Worldwide. A few years ago, in a talk, she said, what if when we feel to stand up at the end of our meditation, what if we just vowed or committed to staying 5 more minutes? And we just gave everything we had in those last 5 minutes. And she talked about her experience in doing this and how those 5 minutes, sometimes they were 5 minutes of joyful meditation. Sometimes they turned into 15 minutes of joyful meditation. But always there was something that was being served by giving our effort and our energy in those last few minutes. When we feel like we don't have any more to give, just picking up the energy, the willingness, and saying, no, I have more. I'm infinite energy. Let this flow through me. Let me open my heart and receptivity to the divine. And when we choose to recommit just a little bit more, just 5 minutes, we all have 5 more minutes, just recommitting a little bit more. Maybe it's on the other end, saying, I'm going to wake up 5 minutes earlier and give myself 5 minutes longer in my morning meditation. Or I'm going to sit 5 minutes longer at the end of the night. I'm tired and I know I'm ready for bed, but I can give God 5 more minutes. If we can do that, if we can take these little steps and bring our enthusiasm and our willingness back into our practices, God is waiting there ready to just take us by the hands and wrap us up in that love. And it's such a beautiful thing. It can just reinvigorate everything we're doing and help us to bring that meditative state into every activity and every action in our lives. Second axiom from Swami Kriyananda and Yogananda is environment is stronger than willpower. And we've heard this so many times, and I was thinking about this particularly now because the only ways really that we're coming together for meditation are online. And we can get that little thought in our head of like, it's online, it's not quite the same, we're not all sitting together. And in a sense, of course, that's true. There is a vibrational power to being together, sitting in a room with one another. But we also know that this world is not what it appears to be. Time and space, it's all an illusion, and that when we can tap into that attunement with our guru bhais and that attunement with our teacher, with our spiritual practices, then we're able to reach that place that exists beyond time and space. So there's actually been a beauty in the time period that we're in right now, where so much has to be offered online, because we're able to plug into meditations. Just the other day, there was a global meditation held from Swami Kriyananda's Moksha Mandir at Ananda Village up in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas, and it was a global group. There were people from all around the world at different times. For some of us it was midnight, for some of us it was 10 in the morning, for some of us it was noon. It was such a beautiful experience of coming together on a global scale, something we couldn't do if we were all just trying to be in that same room. So we have the power to create that environment and to tune into those vibrational connections. Yes, we want to be together, and yes, there is a power to meditating together in one room, feeling each other's energy. But that energy exists all around us, and all we need to do is attune ourselves to it, to take the opportunity to say, yes, I will plug into a global meditation. I'll plug into a meditation from India, or I'll plug into a meditation being held in Italy, or I'll plug into a Kriya meditation online. And we can feel that same enthusiasm, and we can feel that same connection, because that environment is there, and it can span beyond time and space. I was going to talk about another, we'll see if it connects back in. Just a few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go. I had to go run an errand, and I ran up to Ananda Village, which is again at the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. And I was just sitting outside up on top of this beautiful hill, feeling the peace and feeling the calmness of the space. And I sat up there for about an hour out in the open and was just meditating there. And I had that feeling at the end of like, oh, I miss this, I want that calmness and that peace. Because of course we live in a world, those of us in urban settings, where it's busy and noisy, and it can be chaotic at times. And we can think, how do I find that? How can I have that peace when everything around me is so chaotic? This is one of the reasons we go on seclusion and we go on pilgrimage, because it is true that environment is stronger than willpower. And these places, these sacred places, they hold those vibrations of peace and of calmness. But what I found as I was driving home that evening, just reflecting on, it wasn't quite melancholy, but just that little, that pang of the heart that said, oh, I just want to be in these rural, still, calm settings. Just as I was talking about with plugging into global meditations online, we have that opportunity to create those environments for ourselves. Our consciousness, there's always an opportunity to uplift our consciousness and to shift our consciousness, and to choose to not be impacted by the chaos that happens around us. And I don't say that glibly, because it is difficult. It's easy to get pulled out into the world, but we have the opportunity to practice that by bringing our willingness and bringing our concentration to magnetize that flow of energy, to uplift our consciousness to those places where we can feel that peace and that calmness, regardless of what's happening around us. One of my favorite stories, though of course it didn't happen to me personally, was hearing from a group of people who went to Disneyland with Swami Kriyananda and just sat down in the middle of Main Street when Swami Kriyananda felt the call to go inward, and just meditated right there in the middle of Main Street in Disneyland. To me, I think, wow, how could we do that? What does that look like? But those opportunities exist for us. And when we are looking to reinvigorate our practice, to come back to that place of really feeling the power of meditation and reconnecting with our meditation, recognizing and acknowledging that we have that opportunity to go within in any moment, in any environment, in any circumstance, then we are empowering ourselves in order to reinvigorate, to come back to meditation, to feel the power of that meditation. The next one, Paramahansa Yogananda tells us to disconnect the sense telephones. And this one has always been a little bit of an interesting one for us, because here we are living in the world where we are constantly drawn out by our senses. What can I see? What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I touch? What can I feel? And then we attach emotionally to those things that we're experiencing on a sensory level. So what does this look like for us? And I came back to pranayama, and really using our pranayama techniques, our tensing and relaxing, our measured count breathing. Right now we're teaching a Raja Yoga course, the Art and Science of Raja Yoga, our 14-week course, to a group of wonderful devotees and wonderful students who hopefully someday will find their paths and perhaps become devotees. But one of the things that we do is we lead a guided meditation every Thursday as part of our sadhana practice during this class. And we go through this whole process of beginning with prayer and chanting, and then tensing and relaxing, double breathing with our double breath and our measured count breathing, and then coming into our Hung Sa and leading a step by step our students through the Hung Sa technique. And I have found the power of using the breath in order to withdraw from the senses. It's not something, I'll admit, that I remember to do every single time I sit down to meditate in the morning. I don't always remember to do my tensing and relaxing and my measured count breathing, but we know that the mind and the breath are connected with one another. And we know that as we can use the breath to help withdraw our energy in. This is why our breath gets calmer and stiller in our meditations, because we're withdrawing the energy and we're pulling it into our astral spine. So we can use the breath and we can use our pranayama techniques in order to do this. And it's a beautiful way to help reinvigorate our meditation practices. Fourth one is from Swami Kriyananda, and it's one that I've always loved. And he says, sooner or later, we have to discover that we are either progressing or regressing, but that there is no standing still. And this is an important one because this is about our energy and it's about our attitude. What do we have to bring in to show up? We want to approach every single meditation like it's a brand new adventure. I remember one time I was part of a Next Wave conference, which is a conference of just this was about 4 or 5 years ago, of young people in Ananda who were coming up as sort of the next generation of Ananda devotees and Ananda sevikas. And somebody asked the question, how do I stay attuned to my meditation, and how do I keep my practice alive and enthusiastic? And the response from one of our teachers and mentors was, treat every meditation as a new adventure. You're on an adventure with God, and ask yourself, where is God taking me today? Yogananda says that meditation must be practiced every single day, and that start now. He says, just start now. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't put it off to the future. Find God right now. And there's so much joy in that statement. Yes, of course. Why would we wait until tomorrow to find God? And I loved that idea of approaching each meditation as an adventure, so that we let go of the monotony or the habitual aspects of it, so that it doesn't just become a habit or a practice, but we bring our focus and our concentration to it every single time. Every time you sit down on the pillow, you're inviting God on an adventure. God is inviting you on an adventure. Where are you taking me today? Where will we go? What can we hear? What can I feel? What exists inside? Because the greatest adventure that any one of us can have in this lifetime is the adventure that exists inside our spine when we withdraw our energy within. There's so much more that can be offered to us by going inside than any great adventure that can happen out in the world. When I was in high school and college, I wanted to be a travel journalist. That was what I thought I would do with my life, and I wanted to just travel around the world and write about amazing, incredible places and the people that I saw. And I felt like I constantly wanted to be moving and engaging with the world, and that if I could just find that next great adventure, then I would feel satisfied and my heart would feel calm. This was before I found the path and before I knew that I was even really looking for a spiritual path. But what I found as I came onto the path, that desire for travel, that desire to seek adventures out in the world, it just slipped away. And it wasn't because I don't still love the idea of travel. I would pick up and travel anytime somebody invited me somewhere. I would love to go and experience new things and go to new places and have adventures outwardly in the world. But the reason that desire slipped away is because the adventure that I've been finding is inside. That adventure that each one of us can embark on every morning and every evening, it exists within us when we sit down on our meditation pillow, and we don't need to go seeking it out on Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest or crossing the oceans on sailboats. It exists right here, right within us. And that adventure is such a powerful opportunity that we have, and such a powerful way to reinvigorate and bring enthusiasm back into our practices, especially for those of us. I was just talking with a friend the other day who again was saying, here we are in month 7 of this global pandemic, and travel has pretty much halted for the most part. She was saying, I just want to go on an adventure. And that's what piqued my interest. And I thought, well, how do we have those adventures in our hearts every day? And the last piece of advice that I'll leave us with, or the last axiom that Yogananda gives us, is that God is Sat Chit Ananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. That's all we need to know when we approach each meditation. God is ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. It encompasses every single one of the axioms that's been present before that we've talked about. It encompasses bringing our energy and our enthusiasm, finding that altar within our hearts and creating an environment for meditation, disconnecting from the senses through our tools and our techniques and our breath, and withdrawing the energy in, knowing that every meditation is an adventure. God is ever existing bliss. Every day when we come and sit down at the pillow, we remember this. We know it. We hold it in our hearts and we seek it. How else, what else could come to us but enthusiasm and joy when we say, let me come and sit on my pillow. God is Satchitananda, ever existing, ever present, ever conscious bliss. Introduce me to that bliss. Show me how to find that bliss and hold that bliss within my heart. All we need to do every day is repeat these words, is know this truth, is come with an open mind and a receptive heart to feel that energy that God is sharing with us. One of my favorite stories comes from Nayaswami. I've been saying one of my favorite stories today. I have a lot of favorite stories, but a beautiful story that Nayaswami Devarshi told was about one day feeling just, early in the morning, not really wanting to come and meditate and thinking, what's my meditation going to bring today? And just feeling the fatigue of the practice. And the thought came into his mind, what if today is the day? What if today is the day that I'm introduced to that bliss? What if today is the day that I can enter that state of samadhi? And it can happen for us in any moment. That adventure we're seeking, it's right there. And today could be the day. It's exactly what Paramahansa Yogananda says to us when he says, begin this very moment to think of God. Start now. The search for God, the time for knowing God has come. And the way that I practice this in little ways in my life every day is I try and repeat the poem, God, 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 which of course I'll leave us just with the last stanza in waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving. My soul will constantly hum, unheard by any, God, God, God. This is the promise that awaits us at the end of our meditations. This is the promise that awaits us when we bring our full energy, our full enthusiasm, our full joy into our meditations. So wherever we are, whatever fatigues we're feeling, whether it's pandemic fatigue, whether it's fatigue of the practice, whether it's wanting to just reintroduce and reinvigorate some of these techniques that we have, whether it's just desire to know God and feel God more sweetly in our hearts, meditation is the key. Bring your focus, bring your attention, bring your energy, no matter what responsibilities wait for you outside in the world. Hold them, put them down off in the corner, and sit down to your meditation and repeat those words. My soul will constantly hum, unheard by any. God, God, God. God bless you all.